What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, August 29th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 1948 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have Russian and U.S. nuclear forces on very, very high alert for some reason. Russia launched a massive attack on Ukraine last night, and they're currently in the process of attacking Ukraine again for the second night in a row. Now, what's very concerning is that last night the Russians directly targeted a British diplomat office known as the British Council Office in Kiev. So some kind of British diplomatic office was targeted by the Russians last night, and Russia has dispersed all of their nuclear-armed submarines and nuclear-powered submarines from their northern fleet, which typically indicates a very, very high level of alert. That's the highest level of alert, is when you disperse your nuclear-armed submarines and all of your Navy and all your submarines out of port. And the reason why you do that is if we were to go to nuclear war with Russia, or there was some kind of a war, you don't want your high value assets sitting in port where they can be hit by the enemy. So they have already dispersed all of their nuclear armed subs from the northern fleet. Okay, I'll show you guys some satellite pictures proving that. And in addition to the Russians, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert again today. Here you can see two U.S. nuclear war command and control planes airborne over the continental United States. We have one flying over Tennessee right now, and it was in the Gulf of America doing some VLF work, communicating with our submerged nuclear-armed submarines through VLF, or very low frequency. And then we have another one over Montana right now. This is pretty unusual for a holiday weekend. So something is going on behind the scenes. I don't know if it's related to the recent Ukraine strikes that Russia conducted or something else. And here we have a picture of this British diplomatic office, the British Council Office in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, that was hit by Russian missiles last night. Now, also, there are some reports that Russia tried to target the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. I cannot confirm that 100%, but apparently 3 missiles landed right outside of Chernobyl in the Pripyat city, which was the city where all the workers of Chernobyl lived at, and then it became abandoned. But this is absolutely insane. Look at this, guys. The Russians directly striking a British diplomatic office of some kind in Kiev. And here we have pictures showing the Russian subs that have left port in the northern fleet. Various types of Russian nuclear-powered and nuclear-armed subs gone from all these bases here. Here's the Zapadnaya Litsa sub base, August the 10th. You can see all of the docks here are empty. Here's another picture. Okay, so very, very serious, guys. Something is going on. And tonight, right now, we currently have a U.S. sub-hunter plane flying off the coast of Lithuania and Poland. And what's very interesting is that it's doing these very low circles here right off the coast of Estonia and the Gotland Island. And if you remember, about a week ago, there was a report that the Russians cut a cable here going to the Gotland Island, and they lost power and internet across the entire island. This is an island controlled by the Swedish. This is a Swedish island in the Baltic Sea, and you can see this U.S. sub-hunter looping right in between Gotland and Latvia and Estonia. Very, very concerning. And last night we had a lot of reconnaissance activity in the Baltics. You can see here an Italian reconnaissance plane doing loops here in Estonia and Latvia. Also, we had Forte 10, a U.S. recon drone flying up and down the Baltics. We also had an Italian Air Force C-130 cargo plane land in Estonia in Tallinn. And then we also had a British KC-2 Voyager aerial refueler go to Estonia. So lots of activity here in the Baltics. And the British Foreign Ministry has now summoned the Russian ambassador following last night's ballistic missile attack against the British Council building in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer accusing Russian President Vladimir Putin of sabotaging peace in negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Okay, so they have summoned the Russian ambassador over this. And speaking earlier during a press briefing, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stated that Trump was not happy but also not surprised with last night's large-scale Russian missile and drone attack against the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, which appeared to primarily target residential and civilian infrastructure, resulting in the death of at least 21 civilians. Okay, so one of the bloodiest attacks in the past several months on Kyiv, over 20 people killed in this Russian missile attack. Leavitt said that Trump will be making a statement on Russia and Ukraine potentially tonight or sometime in the next couple of days. So this is very, very serious. Russia launching another massive attack yesterday, and right now it's ongoing right now. You can tune into my 24/7 live stream if you want to get the latest info on what's going on. My wonderful moderators will be updating you guys in the chat. Ross Niderman, Jennifer Asbury, and some of the other moderators, NYPrepper, will be posting updates throughout the night. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has stated that there will be no meeting between Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin following last night's missile and drone attack against Kyiv, which resulted in at least 21 deaths and over 100 injuries, as well as damage to the British Council Office and the European Union Mission Office. Okay, so they hit the EU Mission Office as well. So no meeting, guys. I told you there was not going to be any miraculous peace. I told you that. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And the U.S. State Department has now officially announced their approval of a potential sale of 3,350 extended-range attack munitions, a low-cost, precision-guided air-launched standoff missile system with a range of roughly 250 miles to Ukraine for an estimated $825 million, okay? So here's the actual press release, okay? State Department has approved the sale of 3,300, that's 3,300 ERAM missiles, 250-mile range on these missiles, okay, launched from fighter jets to Ukraine. 3,300 missiles with a range of 250 miles. You know what kind of hell Ukraine can rain down on Russia with that amount of firepower? This is very, very serious, guys. And we had some footage released earlier today showing the interception of a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon off the coast of Crimea and southern Russia in the Black Sea by a Russian fighter jet. So we had a P-8 flying close to Crimea and southern Russia earlier today, and the Russians intercepted it with their fighter jet. Now, this P-8 was flying in international waters. And Russia is flying surveillance drones over routes that the U.S. military and its allies are using to ferry military supplies through eastern Germany towards Ukraine, collecting intelligence that could be used to bolster the ongoing sabotage campaign against NATO by the Russian FSB and assist military operations in Ukraine, according to senior officials in Europe and the U.S. who spoke with the New York Times. The Russian sabotage campaign against NATO has so far led to fires at warehouses in Britain, an attack against a dam in Norway, attempts to cut cables under the Baltic Sea, and an array of other operations, including one which resulted in the arrest of 3 agents from Ukraine back in May, who the FSB had instructed to send explosives or incendiary devices on cargo planes transiting Germany. Thankfully, the plot was discovered by the CIA, who sent a warning to officials at Germany's Federal Intelligence Service. So, very serious news, guys. Russia is flying surveillance drones over routes that the U.S. military and its allies are using to ferry supplies through Germany to Ukraine, and conducting sabotage operations against NATO, collecting intelligence. Very, very serious. And the Israeli military launched a decapitation strike on the Houthis, taking out several VIPs. The Israeli Defense Force currently assesses that in addition to Houthi Minister of Defense Major General Mohammed al-Atfi and Chief of General Staff Major General Mohammed Abd al-Karim al-Garmari, the entirety of the Houthi political cabinet, including the Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rahawi, were killed in yesterday's strikes by the Israeli Air Force against the Yemeni capital of Sana'a in Houthi-controlled western Yemen. Okay, so they took out the entire Houthi political leadership, including their Minister of Defense and their Chief of Staff. So basically the Houthis have basically had their back broken. Okay. And what you're looking at here is a picture of one of the missile ships that the U.S. sent to the Caribbean. This is the Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser, the USS Lake Erie, and this picture was taken in Balboa, Panama, so it is now sitting at a dock in Panama. Now, this ship can carry, I believe, up to 12 Tomahawk missiles. It has 12 vertical launch tubes, but that's nothing because they have 3 Arleigh Burke destroyers that went towards Venezuela a few days ago, and the Arleigh Burke destroyers can carry up to 90 or 96 vertical launch tubes, so that could be up to 96 Tomahawk missiles if they're fully loaded with Tomahawks, which would be roughly 300 Tomahawk missiles between the 3 of them. Typically, they don't have them fully loaded with Tomahawks. They may have, 3/4 Tomahawks and then 1/4 air defense missiles to intercept any kind of missiles. But that's a massive amount of firepower going down to the Caribbean, and I do believe we're going to see the U.S. strike Venezuela to try to decapitate the Maduro government, take out Russian missile launchers in Venezuela and Cuba, and also Iranian missile launchers there as well, and potentially change the regime in Venezuela, because remember, Venezuela is an oil powerhouse, and we know Trump likes oil. If you remember, when Trump criticized Bush for going into Iraq, he said that Bush made a mistake in that he didn't take the oil, and so maybe Trump is thinking that he can overthrow Maduro, install an American government there, and then we could have control of all the oil in Venezuela, which would reduce our reliance on the Middle East for oil, okay? And the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, announced Wednesday that he would be taking management of Union Station, the main transportation hub in Washington, D.C., away from Amtrak and placing it under federal control. So this is the big train station in D.C. It's now going to be under federal control as President Trump continues his campaign of exerting control and influence over the nation's capital. Duffy claimed during his announcement that Union Station, located within walking distance of the U.S. Capitol building and the National Mall, had fallen into disrepair when it should be a point of pride for Washington, D.C. And U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday directed the Department of Homeland Security to cancel Secret Service protection and all other security-related procedures for Vice President Kamala Harris. Most vice presidents receive 6 months of protection after leaving office, though this period was extended by 1 year for Harris as a result of an executive directive from Biden due to threats she had received both during and after the 2024 election. And the Danish Foreign Ministry has summoned the U.S. envoy to Denmark following a report from the primary public broadcaster DR indicating that at least 3 Americans with ties to U.S. President Donald Trump are conducting active influence operations in Greenland. According to an investigation based off of conversations with 8 sources across Denmark, Greenland, and the U.S., the 3 men are conducting the operations in an attempt to infiltrate Greenlandic society. One of the men involved has made a list of Trump supporters in Greenland with the goal of later recruiting them to establish a secessionist movement on the island against Denmark, while the 2 other men have made contact with politicians, business people, and other citizens, causing authorities to be concerned that they could be used to support Trump's goal of eventually annexing Greenland. Wow. So very, very serious. And finally, here you can see a U.S. Navy sub-hunter operating near Grenada off the coast of Venezuela. So active operations are underway here in the Southern Caribbean. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. Wanted to update you guys quickly. I hope you have a very safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend for my viewers here in the U.S. Also, please be aware of your surroundings no matter where you are. We had that tragedy in Minneapolis with the shooting of people going to a Catholic church for Mass. That is absolutely evil, and that's another sign that we're living in the end times, are these direct attacks on churches. Okay, basically that is Satan trying to keep people from going to church, to make people afraid to go and worship Jesus Christ, okay? So even when you're going to church, carry your firearm, okay, as long as it's legal for you to do so. I carry anytime I go to church, all right? So be aware of your surroundings, and that's it for now. Maybe I'll be back later on tonight with a live update or live monitoring of the situation in Ukraine, but there is a big attack underway again right now. So pretty much the chances of peace are gone. Okay, it's only going to escalate, especially with those 3,250-mile range missiles that Ukraine is about to receive, and I'm hearing that they're going to get them by late October. So things are going to get spicy in Ukraine. Things are going to get spicy in Venezuela. So be on high alert. Don't stop prepping. Make sure your bug-out bags are squared away. You know, as we're heading into the winter season, start thinking about your winter preparedness from the standpoint of keeping your home warm if you lose power. And if you get stranded on the side of the road, make sure you have a winter survival kit in your vehicle. And also make sure your bug-out bag is set up for the winter. There's always some things that I change every year, every season, from the warmer months to the winter months, the cooler months, the cold months. I always swap some things out. For example, I'll put in, hand warmers or body warmers into my bug out bag as it starts getting colder, and I'll remove my Sawyer mini water filter because those can freeze. So if you leave your bug out bag in your vehicle by accident, outside, the next day, your Sawyer mini water filter can get damaged from the ice inside that freezes. Okay, so just little things like that, But I will be back with more updates potentially later on tonight. And until the next time, take care. God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere. Before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this video, which is Just In Case Holsters. Guys, if you own a firearm, a knife, or you just want to have a cool leather wallet, check out Just In Case Holsters. I have been working with them just in the last few weeks, and I personally have spoken to the owner several times. He is a solid guy. He's a Navy veteran, and he makes all these holsters by hand, and these holsters are just absolutely beautiful. He sells chest holsters, he sells hip holsters, he sells holsters for knives, and they're all handmade in the USA by him. So very high quality stuff, and he has provided me with a 10% discount code, which is just NYPrepper in all caps lock. I'm going to put a link in the description below to his website with the promo code, but it's justincaseholsters.com, and the promo code is NYPrepper, all caps lock. So